Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner Studio, and today I'm going to just give the update right from the studio. I want to show some stuff, and this is going to be a very short update, hopefully. I just want to talk about some of my new scratch builds, and then we'll go over to the other bench where I have some stuff I want to show, some materials and all that. So I'm wrapping up a lot of projects. Okay, so here's my new Starship collection, and these are all scratch built. This technique, this is my fourth technique for building ships, and this is all clothespins. Clothespins and other materials, I will show some of those materials. These ships also have moving parts, like moving turrets in many cases, and I'll show all the materials that I use to get these things built. This is a pretty new one. It's an interesting technique, and there's the moving turret on this one. Okay, it's an interesting technique. It builds some interesting looking ships, I think, and I'm really favoring this technique for many reasons. Now, I still build my ships with foam. I still build stuff with styrofoam because it's so I can find a lot of styrofoam easily for those builds. You know, recycle foam is what I use. But so here is, now these are all the ships on this side are all command level 2 starships that I'm building specifically for Infinite Dark. Okay, so this one has like an interesting weapon system going on. This one's not finished. It has the moving turret. But this one is not finished. It needs to be finished and then painted. But one of the interesting things about this mechanic is that this technique is that it uses Procreate clay. I'm using clay not only to sculpture some of the details, like the canopies and stuff, but I'm using it as an adhesive. With a base coat of paint, because paint makes everything look so much better. All right, and it has its flight stand, so there it is. Okay, now to compare this hover tank, here is a PHR tank from Drop Zone Commander. Okay, so that's kind of the scale. Here is a UCM tank from Drop Zone, and then that's kind of the size range. And then this hover tank is from Reaper. Okay, so my piece is a little bit bigger. Okay, so it's not exactly 10 mil or even 15 mil. It's a little bit bigger. It's not as small as some of the other scales, but still small enough that it'll fit well in a game of Horizon Wars or something once it's all painted up. Okay, so things are still drying, but here is the miniature hover tank. Needs paint. And again, this is an experiment, you know. And this is all with the clothespins, as I said before. And it has a moving turret. And I'm going to, this is not only clothespins, but it also has a little bit of the plastic from sprues, that thing right there that you see that I'm pointing to. It also has some electrical bits right there in the rear. That's an electrical bit that I used. Took it out with my pliers. Electrical bits are perfect for these kinds of things because they're small. And then these pieces here are cable ties that I chop up and make air vents out of them. You know, you can see them in some of my starships when I want to give a little bit of texture. Okay, there it is. So that's one of the starships has that. And I have to paint these, get these painted so that I can use them in my next game of Infinite Dark. My next game of Infinite Dark is going to be command level 2. So we can explore that, and then we're going to explore command level 3. That's how I want to do those games. All right. So not a bad little scratch build, this model. For the top hatch, I used, again, the knobby bits from Excess Sprues. That's that little round bit on top. And the actual hatch is a button. Okay, so I used the button to make the hatch. And then I got to add some antennas, and I got to paint it up, you know, give maybe a camouflage scheme or something like that. And I have myself a little hover tank. All right, so I need to give all of this stuff a chance to dry. And these ships were built in a very reasonable amount of time. All the 3 that you see back there, I built this morning. Really, you know, it really doesn't take that long to build. So this is a technique that I'm beginning to really like and to really explore. So the collection is growing, and we're going to play some cool games with all these proxy models. There's the tank. Not too bad. I'm going to work on other designs and experiment. Make some wheeled vehicles and tracked vehicles as well. So, but okay, so here we are at my primary craft bench, and these are the materials that I will be using for all these new builds. I'm going to start experimenting, building some small mechs, some tanks, some armored vehicles, wheeled vehicles, tracked vehicles, you know, hover vehicles, doesn't matter. I'll try it all. And these are the materials that I will be using. Now, one of the benefits of clothespins is that they come in many different sizes. And these are actually called craft pins. They come in many different sizes, so I can alter the size of the builds without a problem, you know. And by cutting all the different kinds of clothespins, cutting them up in different sizes and shapes, you know, that's how I get to shape my vehicles. So this is my little scrap bin with all the different parts that I've cut up. Okay, and I save these, and as I build something, when I need pieces, you know, that's where I turn. This is the largest size of clothespin. So these are going to be for some Starship builds. And then you have a slightly smaller size, which is this one. Still pretty big. And then smaller and smaller. Okay. And then this is the smallest size, and they come in packs of 50. Now, I get most of these at the dollar store. Okay. I get like 50 for $1, which is great. And some of them are like $2, depending on where I get them. It's still very inexpensive compared to other materials. Also, for materials, all of the metallic bits from the clothespins, I save these, all the different sizes. Because what I do is I cut these with my wire cutter, and I use them for the muzzles of ships to add details to the engines. And I'm sorry, I meant the muzzle of weapons. I can't speak today. I've been feeling a little off. Anyway, so for the muzzle of weapons, or for the base of a weapon, you know, these coils, I use them for a lot of different things. So I save them and recycle them, and then I'm basically using the whole clothespin. So that's what I'm planning to do with these. So for these little starships and vehicles that I'm making, pliers, tweezers from time to time. I don't use these a lot, but from time to time, these become my main cutters for some of the smaller clothespins. Since I'm using Procreate and clay as adhesive, I use my clay shaping tool, X-Acto knife. That's another piece of plier. Some scissors. This saw blade I use just like this for some of the larger clothespins in order to cut them. And very important is my Dremel. I'm using my Dremel more and more these days for these scratch builds. Okay. And so these builds are strictly for Infinite Dark, and they're not meant to replace my foam crafts. They're meant to actually add to it. It's just a different material that I'm using, a different style. You know, and that's what I love to do on my channel, is experiment with a wide variety of different things. I never, ever, ever stick with one technique. So, and that holds true with all my builds, really. So, folks, well, I hope you like it as much. I mean, I love scratch builds, and you know, my channel is mostly about building. It's mostly about building stuff and using those builds in my games. So, we'll talk very soon, guys. I will continue to explore this material, and I'll have new scratch builds in the near future. Thank you very much, guys, and we'll talk very soon.